Hello and welcome to the Forge Alliance Forevercast. I'll be your host, Swkoll, and today we're looking at a nice game on Loki. One of my favorite maps. My second favorite now after VA3 Protectorate, that's had some very nice matches recently on it. I know I haven't really been casting for a while. Been a bit busy, but now I'm hoping to get back in the swing of things. I also have been changing around a few things with my mic. Please give feedback about how it is compared to previous times. Is it better, worse, the same? Either way, this is a replay on the replay thread. I don't think anyone's cast it. It's been 3 days, and no one has claimed it. It is between two very high tier players, R.A. Mad Mozart and R.A. Zlo. Zlo, I believe, number 6 on the global ladder rating thing. Mad Mozart, easily in the top 25. Both the players going for some very aggressive builds. We're seeing two simultaneous first hunters out of both the players. Zlo choosing to send it around the edge of the map, while Mad Mozart will do a more aggressive first hunter. Mad Mozart going pretty standard. I'm counting 6 pigeons to the air, lots of trees to reclaim. Actually, Zlo going for a second land build. And if I said first hunter, this is obviously a first mech marine. It is a UAF versus Cybern matchup. Arguably the best matchup for this map. When you have like UAF versus Aeon on this map, you have weird water things happening and lots of kiting. That's pretty boring. But UAS versus Cybern, you both get those two on the ground factions with no Tech 1 floating units. That makes for a very interesting match. So these players just going ahead and getting what they need. Though R.A. Zlo going to go for a very aggressive 3 mech marine snoop raid. Go directly across and down. 3 mech marines starts becoming in the range where you can take out a mantis. 2 you can, or you used to be able to if you had enough micro, but I believe with 3 you should be able to take it out easily. Mad Mozart are going to be following up some 3 engineers after the first hunter with 3 scouts. 3 scouts going to go ahead, but looks like our hunter has found a target, the reclaim engineer from Zlo. This might hurt his eco significantly if he cannot get this reclaim to fund his eco. And he gets about half of it before the NG goes pop. A bit unfortunate, but Zlo choosing to go for a very interesting third air build. We'll see how much he's Mad Mozart punishes him for that, or if Zlo can make this a positive thing by giving map control more easily, just so long as he doesn't lose these expanding engineers to bombers. Ideally, Mad Mozart would do some passive airplay with like a first inti out of the air factory. We'll have to see what he does with that. Mad Mozart deciding nothing immediately out of the air factory. Maybe gonna wait to get P-Gen. With the first hunter after getting its original kill. This is scouted by one of the moles. Mantis are going to be sent to reinforce. But the mech marine from Zlo going all the way around the map to find this NG, runs past it. Slight lapse of attention, but he does have this other group. This is going to pull this mantis down to try to deal with this, but mech marine on the move, trying to get these NGs up here, but who knows if they'll be able to get there in time. Meanwhile, a raid from Mad Mozart up the top. Hunter does get taken out, but in the last split second takes out the expanding NG from R.A. Zlo. It's going to hurt a lot with no expansion to the top. ACU still in the base. Very passive expansion here. This NG got killed. So Mad Mozart with a huge advantage in the early game. He is going to go ahead with that passive first inti, anticipating a second air out of Zlo. Zlo switching things up, knowing that Benmos are actually going first 2 intis, no bomber. But 3 Mech Marines going to take out these reclaim ANGs. 2 Mantis here should be able to take out 3 Mech Marines. Unless Zlo can do something crazy with Micro. I don't see how he could win this. Sending one of them into die while retreating the other Mech Marine. Very smart move. And this Mech Marine getting around the entire map, ready to shoot at some Engies. Looks like the Hydro might be finished in time though. So Mad Mozart with the 2 first intis. And Zlo just now getting his air out. AC looks to be staying in the base at least immediately. Did he rename that? No, it's just alright Zlo. Mech Marine gonna have to run away. And she's gonna go across the pond. But the Mech Marine here should be able to annoy some mass extractors. As we can see, Mad Mozart actually investing significantly in power compared to Zlo. And not building any actual units. You're floating a lot of power here. So I'm looking for some early upgrades. Early T2 air might be possibly, or heavy T1 air. T2 lands is always a possibility. Early gun. No clue what he's actually gonna go for here, but he has a lot of options. And subcom power equals options. Mass is the fuel, you make those options happen. Build capacity is the tools which shape the mass. Or at least that's one way to think of it. This Mech Marine will eventually take down that Hydro if it's not intercepted by this bomber. We'll have to see if Mad Mozart chooses to do that, or have a more aggressive bomber take out maybe this expanding NG. That would hurt a lot. This expanding NG. Is that NG actually going to expand? No. It's going to stay there, have a party. Looks like Mad Mozart sending out his ACU. Going to push top. Roslo just going to keep it in base, getting a second air factory. Very little land out of these players, but NGs are going to be spotted by a Mech Marine. This was the Mech Marine that went all the way down here with the 3 Mech Marines. Has come back. Is ready to make a play to take out these 2 NGs, trying to establish a foothold on this expansion. Not going to be allowed to happen. Zlo with 2 tanks securing the bottom position. Mech Marines running across the map to secure it. NGs are forced back, but a bomber does come out. We'll be able to take that out. Hydro's still alive with 600 HP. Bomber now up to 3 kills after killing those 2 raiding groups. And the NGs should be able to secure that position again, but Zlo getting his unit, a tank across. If he can get there before the factory is complete, that'll be something. So Zlo just looking at some passive ACU play, maybe looking to do some turtling. Already getting that Tech 2 Mass Extractor out. It's going to be a minute 6 Tech T2 Mass Extractor. The most passive of passive plays. Meanwhile, we're seeing Mad Mozart doing an even more passive play, getting that T2 Mass Extractor out a few seconds earlier, getting that extra mass. So we know no land spam from these players. For people at home, I would not recommend emulating this. Zlo and Mozart, you'd have to tell me if you had some sort of gentleman's agreement to be the turtliest of turtles. Yes, turtliest is a word. But Roslev now going to go ahead after getting that T2 Max. Gonna get some T1 spam factories. With it completely undefended NG going to expand to the top. That could easily be denied by this bomber if the scout spots it, and it does. Or it appears to anyway. But Inti's coming out to support. And nice Mech Marine still being viable. Minute 6. Running around the map, going to do the exact same thing that one Mech Marine did before. Tech 1 transport's now out from Mad Mozart. Lots of things you can do with these T1 transports. Very commonly used strategy. Drops there, but also useful for distributing NGs around the map when you have map control. And then there's always the possibility of a ghetto, because ghettos are cool. Love ghettos. But Zlo just going to go ahead, getting the adjacency bonuses on these factories, and be able to build all these land units slightly cheaper. And bombers fighting the mech marines. It's going to end well for them. But the drop is going to go around. Drop near the hydro with 2 mexes. Going to be a mantis drop with, looks like 3 mantis. Alternatively, you can always NG drop this or already drop this. You can reclaim, capture factories to establish a foothold, or you can just reclaim with an NG drop, that is. Leaving you a bunch of options, but this mantis drop is going to be quite annoying. No radar on the high ground here for Reslow. Does he have any radar at all? Nope. There's no clue that was coming. What is Reslow up to? He's investing quite a bit in the power span. He does have a slight mass advantage, but he does not have air control. He's about to lose his mass advantage to Reslow, who's now securing this expansion. Doing this drop. Mad Mozart doing all the things he needs to do to secure map control. And put him in a good position for the mid-game. More transports coming out from Mad Mozart. What is he going to do with this? More Mantis here. NG's down here. That might be an interesting move. Speed things along. Drop. Secure the positions. Get complete map control. And be annoying. And this is the problem with no radar. He has no clue where these Mantis are running. They're just going straight into his base. And he's got no clue. I mean, he's doing decent amounts of air cover with the inches, and that's kind of what he's planning to do in a fight up top. Looks like good positioning for Mozart, but possibly numbers from Reslow. He brings these other tanks around. And reinforcements are closer by. So Mantis is able to take out some reclaim NGs. A win here for Mad Mozart should be able to take out these mexes, and that would be quite devastating for Reslow. It looks like Zlo will win the fight. Mantis being annoying though, forcing these tanks back. Drop is cleaned up. Drop area is secured. It looks like NG drop this time. We'll have to see where that goes. And Mad Mozart's ACU finally making its way to the top, securing that position. You can like defend the bottom with land tech and a top with an ACU gun. That's one way to do it. NG mod is not entirely valid. Radar getting taken out. And Mad Mozart's spam factories in jeopardy, trying to get up a T1 point defense, but complete numbers for Mad Mozart. Mantis versus tanks. There's just so many Mantis. Trying to get that PD up. Might be able to if these tanks can distract it for long enough. Priority on those NGs taking fire. They would otherwise be going to the tanks, and huge amounts of tanks being pulled down. ACU going out to defend against these Mantis. Lots of things going on. And in an air fight, it looks like Zlo might have a stake in air control. PD does go up, no walls. Interestingly enough. But the Mantis can still do damage even if there's a PD there. They forced that PD. That could have been another factory. This could have been this factory finish, but no, they're going to go ahead and raid some massive tractors in a battle up top. Reslow ACU with tank support. It's really going to be a big defeat for Mad Mozart, who has to retreat now. Tiny bit of reclaim for Zlo. He gets to keep his position. But map control for Mad Mozart, looks like those drops did secure these positions. Actually, no. Yeah, drops in good positions. Dropped an energy here. See if he pays attention. But it looks like a pillar will settle things eventually. Going down there. That must be... Is that a mistake? Pillars, you're great and stuff, but I don't think you can go across the water. Interesting move. Only transports to move them from there. And great rating continues. Zlo pushed deeper and deeper into a mass deficit versus Mozart. He does have the power advantage. Very slight power advantage, and he has gone T2 land, which I already noticed. So this statement isn't actually that useful. Never mind, I noticed it. Still counts. Here's a situation where a single Medusa with a force is great. We can see Mad Mozart mixing in a few Medusa here. He'll be able to target that point defense or the radar if he chooses to do so. Roslo getting gun on the ACU, trying to push ahead with some tanks, but superior Mantis numbers versus single tanks, not gonna cut it. And Mozart sitting around, no upgrades on the ACU. He might be in a bit of trouble if Zlo does get the gun. I mean, he might have to either retreat with his ACU or get something of his own. Or both. Looks like Zlo still pretty heavy in the teching department. Up to 5 T2 mexes. Let's see, Mad Mozart. Only 3 T2 mexes, but map control, giving him that huge massive advantage. I mean, he has this expansion, he's got that expansion, he's got this and that. He's got this mex. And a bit of a fight over here. Mantis in interesting positions versus tanks in other interesting positions. Looks like tanks over here flanking this. This looks like Zlo kind of being controlled here. But he will be able to break through this front using the T2 and superior numbers. The Mantis weren't able to really do anything, and now there's reinforcements, but a battle up top. Roslo almost done with his gun. He's seconds away. Possibly an attempt to cancel. Already focusing down the commander. But in a second he'll be able to dodge. Once he dodges, oh, there's the gun. And now this T1 land force isn't really going to do much. Mozart retreats further with his ACU. There's a victory here from Zlo and a victory here from Zlo. Could bring him back into this game. This NG is getting map control. Okay, Zlo. You know, something I'd like to see Mad Mozart do. It's kind of nuts. Is he could theoretically build a transport here, drop it around, and do the T2 naval drop because Roslo does not have a radar over here. Just saying. I know this isn't actually useful, but I think it's cool, so yeah. And a nice pillar here from Zlo, going to cut off these artilleries, force these units down. What is Mad Mozart now? He just scouted, so that's exactly what this force is doing. Is he getting upgrades on the comm? No, he's just going to use the option of always retreating. And T2 air from Mad Mozart, along with T2 land. The options are Rhinos and Corsairs, and an air fight. Gestures in the air. I don't know. It looks like Zlo does have numbers, and he has the better micro. So victory in air from Roslo. These Corsairs are just going to have to take a break. Warranties are going to have to be produced, but Mad Mozart now getting T2 power all over the place. Multiple factories for air production. Roslo really needs to make gains on map control, and he is in some parts. This raid here will be absolutely devastating. 2 tanks, but denying a total of 8 mass per second. It's enough to run quite a few factories. By quite a few, I mean like 2 or 3, depending on what you're building. But that's still a significant amount of spam. And these armies face off, deciding who has what advantage, who can do what. Looks like Mad Mozart sending his ACU into the water, taking a break. And the Corsairs and their inability to actually do AA properly will be taken out. Bit unfortunate. That's the way it goes. So this NG here might be able to get up this land factory for Zlo and take hold of this position. That would definitely even out the map control a lot, considering Zlo's been doing all this crazy teching. And no TMD. There's no TMD whatsoever. So that would drive T for life crazy. No TMD over here. But they are scouting often. Actually, Mozart scouting often. Zlo was scouted recently. So they would know. Looks like Roslo going T2 and gun. And the AC, a very powerful weapon for the UEF. Arguably the most powerful at the mid-game. And T2 factories up top, producing Rhinos 3 at a time. That should be enough to shift any major battle here. Up top. Even with the pillars in support, Rhinos are absolutely devastating. Especially another force of Rhinos moving down here, and with Mantis. poses a significant threat. A little Jester gonna poke around, do some scouting. This is a nice little position for Mozart, but is it enough? Lo is catching up in the mass game due to so much effort he's putting into teching, but does he have enough land units at this point? That's really the question. Looking at Reclaim, he sees Lo after he's won a few battles up to 12,000. Mozart only 5,000, so that's 7,000 Reclaim advantage, pretty much paying for all of this and allowing Mozart or Slow to essentially tech his way out of his problems. That's not T2 maxes. This is T2 maxes. Just 7 T2 maxes. Looks like a bit of a pause. Versus only 5 T2 maxes. So we can see 2 extra T2 maxes for Vazlo. Significant mass investment. Tanks down bottom. It looks like Razlo will get a firm hold on this position. A drop going around. Not sure what it wants to do. Doesn't know what it wants to do. And T2, T1 forces meet the canyon. Playing a mighty fine game of chicken. As Roslo decides, I built more tanks, so that's gonna happen. Is this a ferrying operation? Multiple rhinos being ferried across. And Roslo getting that TML, knows that Mozart does not have any TMD, scouting again. And some nice work with Medusas here. Going to harass that tank-based army composition, gonna stun him. But it's only a little bit of harassment and they do eventually get taken out. Does Mozart know about this? He sees the signature but might just assume it's a radar, and the battle does go down. Tanks are out of position for Mozart, but does he have enough, really? I'm not sure. He is losing considerable amounts of numbers, and without the rhinos in the position, he's going to have to retreat. Air being brought in. Rhinos meeting up with the force. Meanwhile, a simultaneous drop from Roslo over in this position, directly on top of that pillar. Meanwhile, another battle going up top, as Roslo trying to establish himself in that position. Rhinos meeting up with the force, should be able to win this fight now. Raiding Mantis getting cleaned up by pillars as the drop does go down over here. 2 Rhinos beat 1 pillar, be able to take out a T2 mass extractor unless Roslo reacts very quickly. But really, this TML in the middle has so much potential, and it is going to be fired. Mad Mozart, no TMD whatsoever. He's going to have to react, and he's going to have to react fast, because this is going to completely turn the tide. Slow now leading the game in eco after securing this position, sniping that mechs. And there's more mexes to snipe. 3 mexes already sniped, it appears. Not entirely sure why, or if they were even mexes. An attempt to run in against T2PD by Rhinos. That's not going to fare well for the Rhinos. Interesting tip. Rhinos can't do anything against T1PD. It's essentially invincible. Invisible, that would be interesting. All T1PDs are invincible and invisible. What am I saying? Either way, this round job very successful, taking out that T2 Max, evening up the mass game. Mozart now in the lead. This kind of haphazard battle goes through. Mozart trying to squeeze forces through the middle. Show point. Trying to bring some forces around, but getting hit by these T2PD. Looks like the tactical missile launcher trying to fire off its missiles before it gets destroyed, getting repaired by the engineers in the area. Gonna force a battle here. Roslo bringing his ACU into the fight, trying to get these rhinos away. Tactical missile launcher does go down, fires off one last missile. The TMD is up. T2 powers are going back up. Looks like snip on the T2 power, and that is not a successful missile. Actually, it's like the T1 mix. Not a very cost-effective missile. And the battle does go down. Lots of T2 from both of these players. Mozart sandwiched in between 2 T2 forces. Looks like he'll be able to take out one drop. Engine drop going directly into the middle of the battlefield. It looks like a win for Slow, or Mozart. Well, that isn't going to be very successful. Zlo with a lot of health now. Gonna push his way up. Lots of efficiency on that comm. And these rhinos with their own level of vets. And Mozart, obviously flustered by the situation. In the back, these rhinos continue. A nice wall from Roslo. I actually haven't seen that wall there before. Seems like a smart idea. Roslo attempting to establish himself, fearful of snipes as Corsairs are being produced. But Roslo with this very powerful T2 force here. I don't know if there's really enough for Mad Mozart here. Mad Mozart's forces are mostly going directly at Zlo's base. It's a huge field of mass for whoever can control it. Zlo did make a play, but can Mad Mozart make a better play for the mass, considering he does control it with his land currently? This position without a factory, surprisingly. Another wall here to control that area of the map. And this Rhino continues to harass Roslo. He sees it. But an air fight, so many inties from these players. Looking at the intie count, we're looking at 118 inties versus 88 inties. So Zlo with a huge advantage unless Mozart can choose to fight over flak or something. And I don't see that much T2 flak. Possibly Mozart with some better micro. Mozart with the worst micro in the previous fight, but we can see if he can turn that around. Looks like Mix is getting sniped by the Rhino. That's weird. But Mozart going full out attack on these Mexes. T2 and capped. Corsairs going attacking various targets. Not entirely sure what they're going after, but these Mexes are as good as dead. This Mex directly in the base from Zlo. No respect from Mozart. Gonna go directly and kill the Mexes with the Rhinos in the base. Pillars not entirely noticing, but Zlo will win air control if he does have an air fight. Remember that. And Zlo has a lot of nicer reclaim opportunities considering this mass field and this mass field. Well, this mass field does mostly compose of his T2 mass ejector rigs, but we can ignore that temporarily. Corsairs being used defensively against the pillars. Looks like this will be successful, but it might force the air fight if Roslo chooses to commit. Roslo with some T2 flak of his own up top, spreading flak over the field of battle. Might be a problem for him if something goes wrong. And Roslo might have the better micro if he chooses to initiate here. These inties are on the ground, being very cold, but Mad Mozart going directly into the main base with even larger amounts of forces. Nothing stopping them killing these T2 power, more T2 Mexes, and the air fight does go down. Roslo can't wait any longer. He has to do something about these Corsairs harassing his attacking forces. He chooses to go in. But it looks like Mozart with the better micro in this fight, but without the numbers. T2 flaks are coming into support a bit late, but better late than never, as Zlo's base is getting destroyed, but now Zlo does have air. I'd like to say he has air. Flak doing great work. And now Mozart with a few Corsairs and nothing to actually defend them. Mozart sitting in the water, might be able to defend this himself, but what does Zlo have to defend against this? Looks like Zlo might actually lose his T2 HQ, and that means no more T2 land for him. And that's going to be huge without any pillars against these Rhinos. Rhinos will absolutely massacre tanks. T1 tanks, that is. Looks like a victory up here for Mad Mozart too. Zlo's running out of options. He does have air, but not for long, especially if he loses this T2. He lost all his power. Roslo now on a power disadvantage. No T2 air, no factories to really go T2 air from. Man, Zlo trying to build his base out in the middle here. All in the open, considering his base is compromised. He's trying to find some options. He's going to go ahead and clear out the air here, but there's a bit of flak here. Pretty disadvantageous for Zlo. So I'm just going to keep that turtle going. Not a huge disadvantage yet. There's not much arty here, not too much random anti-building DPS. Actually, no arty here. No T1 point defense. T1 point defense would have been game-changing if Roslo had spanned them up. So, gaining ahead in score now. I guess with all these defenses and power that he's building. But really, no map. Well, it's pretty even on the map control, but no base control. Now it looks like the T2 bomber is going directly against Mad Mozart's base. He has used that victory in the air to directly attack his base. Shield lost. But can you take out T2 power? That's the question. Still harassing these forward maxes. Where's the T2 air factory? That's the question. I don't see it. There's a T2 land factory here that can't actually produce T2 units. T2 air factory might just be dead. Yeah, it looks like it's dead now. No more Janus bombers. T1 bombers aren't really going to be effective with that much flak in the area. In Roslo, no air advantage really anymore. Or at least not for long, but TML being constructed in this little secret base here. Looks like it'll be defended at least temporarily, but looks like you might have some angles. There's just a TMD here. Built to TML some of these lower mexes. Mozart losing his base. Or Low losing his base, but Mozart also losing his mexes. Not much mass for either of them at this point. Down both below 40 mass per tick. Power is doing quite well for both. As Low has rebuilt this. And Zill might be able to turn this around if he can get this tactical muzzle up, but he doesn't really have many units. He can try to turtle all he wants. He can use this reclaim temporarily to fund his efforts, but that's only going to last him so long. He has nice positions here with map control and stuff, but can this TMO really even that much up? We'll have to see. Looks like an assault again, without any artillery or mole missile launchers, trying to take out this newly constructed T2 land factory HQ, but it might accidentally end up feeding Zlo mass if it's not successful, but if it is successful, Zlo will have to rebuild his T2 HQ again, proving his position even more difficult to defend. Now, running in against the T2 point fence, there's no more room to run. Right up close and personal. With more rhinos coming in, it's going to be a tough stretch for Zlo. Power all out in the open. Corsair is totally viable to go kill that. Let's see. Multiple TMLs now being built. How Zlo, can he afford that? Can he afford anything at this point? He can try. Roslo, does he have overcharge? Did he lose that? No overcharge, realizing he left his energy storage at home. Gonna pull back. But a victory up top for Mad Mozart. We'll be able to take out these additional factories. Roslo getting pretty desperate. Might have to try for some snipe. He may or may not know his ACU is here. Just trying to get the TML up. But with a single Cybern TME, that will defend most of his base. Considering there is a bunch of eco invested up here. But Roslo pulling together, getting a large forces of pillars with these defenses. Oh, and they're Sparkies. Nice use of Sparkies low. I do approve. Sparky is so underused. So amazing. Like so much health. They can hold their own against T1 land forces. With stealth and jamming and everything you ever wanted on Energy. He's low with his last air units in a desperate attempt to scout out the base before he launches his TML. Immediately the TML goes up. Is he going to try to target the TMD? I don't know if that's exactly successful, but it might just be that. T1 bombers being spammed up out of many factories. If you can kill that TMD, the whole base will fall. So many pillars here. This might be actually a well-needed victory for Zlo in a very long time. But Mozart going to flank this position, going to go directly after those T2 powers, trying to keep on the offensive. Does he have his overcharge yet? Yes, he got his overcharge. It's okay. Firing off everything he's got. Looks like he did take out the TMD. Everything in Mad Mozart's base is essentially gone. There's so many TMLs. Losing both of those T2 powers. Both these players down to next to no power. Next to no mass. The game is even in ecos. Zlo being attacked by hordes of T1 bombers. Mozart without any eco or options going to force out those T1 bomber snipes. He has so much health and regen. There's not much he can do. Zlo with this is his only P-gen, completely undefended in a world rhinos, and without any air production or anything really to speak of, Roslo will eventually fall to about 1,000,000 T1 bombers. So I think this was a pretty fantastic game by both these players. So close the whole way through. Some great tactics, some great back and forth. Both did a fantastic job. This position up here, falling slowly. Air Scout's trying to go off. This position is somewhat secure, but Zlo about to lose his last P-Gen. This is his only tech, and he can't even produce anything out of it. Half an hour into the game, Zlo goes pop. That'll be a good game. Teams for TML's knives just not really paying off. Looks like actually no need to go left, but he doesn't need it. A little more time. This force might have been able to attack. But either way, tell me what you think in the comments below. Is it good? Is it bad? Oh, also, I almost forgot. I'd like to thank you all for the passing of the 500 subscriber benchmark. I know people like to do X subs acquired videos when they're nice round numbers, but I think this would be a good time to thank you all for subscribing to me. I do appreciate it. I do read all the comments, even if I don't necessarily reply to them. So, thank you so much for watching, and good night.